Well, good morning, YouTube. All right, guys, up bright and early again this morning. Today is Katie's birthday, so I'm gonna run out, grab her some flowers, and get her a nice hot breakfast, probably over at the First Gold Casino, and give it to her before she gets out of bed. So that's the plan for this morning, and then we'll get opened up and get our day started. All right, guys, I got back and gave Katie her breakfast, and now Chip is here. We're gonna get these curtains rolled up and get ready for work. Good morning, Chip.
Good morning. Good morning, YouTube.
All right, guys, so Chip and I decided to dig into my bike a little bit this morning, try to figure out what's going on with it. Like I said in yesterday's video, I was pretty positive it was a fuel-related issue, not an engine-related issue. So yeah, it running all the time wasn't the problem. So we got to look in and we pulled the code on it, and sure enough, it said cylinder number 1 misfired. And knowing that it was kind of fuel-related, and we pulled the fuel pump housing, the whole assembly out of the top of the fuel tank, and the pressure regulator where it bolts onto the assembly isn't seated properly. It's kind of pulled apart and broken, and it's non-repairable. But we can just buy a new pressure regulator. So we turned the key on, it's just spraying fuel out of the inside and bypassing. So it's starving the engine for fuel, which is exactly kind of falls in line with what we thought originally. So I get on the phone with the Harley dealer, see if I can get the parts so I can get it fixed, and hopefully we get it fixed pretty quick. All right, guys, so here is the culprit. Basically, this is the fuel pressure regulator, the silver part. The black part is the fuel pressure regulator housing. And this is supposed to be squished in here really tight. And there's a clip that slides in that holds it all together. However, the housing has failed. You see the crack right there, the break. Right there. So once that failed, the internal pressure allowed it to blow. Unfortunately, this part right now is not available at any of the local Harley-Davidson dealers. I have to special order it, and they don't know when it's going to come in. And all the other parts, I decided I was going to go ahead and replace the fuel lines as well, because these things are known for getting pinholes in them after time. Keep in mind, this bike does run a lot, and it's got a lot of hours on it, and it's still almost 20 years old. So I decided I'm just going to replace all of that while I've got it apart. And all of that stuff that I don't really need to replace right now is 100% available. So all of the parts that I just want to replace in this repair are available. Parts that I need to replace are not available. Got to be special order. And they won't even order it until I go in and pay for it. So in a few minutes here, I'm going to run into Sturgis and go ahead and order everything. And hopefully I'll get it soon. He said on the special order stuff, he doesn't know whether he'll get it in a week and a half or it could be a month and a half. And my bike's down for a month and a half. When I'm out here, it's really going to suck, because I had every intention of putting a buttload of miles on my bike while we're here. Hey guys, so I'm up here in Sturgis, South Dakota at JP Cycle. Where's the sign? Should be a sign on the building somewhere that says where I'm at. But the parts that the Harley dealer could not get, JP had in stock. Now I would have much rather gone with an OEM part on this, but it's just not available. I'm still gonna order the OEM part. However, you know, I can't wait a month till it comes in. So we're gonna put this in for now, and then I'll keep the OEM as a spare in case this cheap Chinese one ever breaks on me. Guys, downtown Sturgis when it's not rally time. Hi guys, as you can see, we made it to the Harley Davidson dealer. We're gonna get the rest of these parts ordered. Hi guys, I'm done at the Harley dealer. Got all the parts that I needed. And what really kind of sucks about this whole thing is the part that broke, the only part that I absolutely had to have, was only like $13.99 that I got from JP Cycle. But my trip here to the Harley dealer cost me another $270. So I'm $300 into fixing a $13 fix. But it just because I'm so OCD, and I wanted to fix some things that I could get to while I was in there so that I don't have to go into it again. And these are just the common failure points. So we're doing them now, even though it costs more money. I think in the long run, I'll save money. Alright guys, so there's the gold wing we were working on. While I was gone, it came in. Chip said that the guy turned on his four-way flashers, and then when he went to turn them off again, they would not turn off. And it was the first time he's ever used the four-ways. So he's got a bad switch in there. We were able to get it working for him, clean it all up. Then he had no rear brake pedal. Now, that was a challenging part because on a Honda, it's a linked brake system when you use the rear pedal. So the front brake, I believe, applies only front brake. But when you apply the rear brake, it sends fluid to all of the brakes. And because it's a trike, there's 4 different calipers that it all sends fluid to. So it just took a little bit longer to get it all bled out properly. But it's all done. All right, and once we finished that up, I came back to my bike. I went ahead and pulled the fuel tank off of it so I could work on it a little bit easier and get all this stuff done. And I wanted to replace all the lines anyway, so here we are. I've got the new regulator housing, everything installed already. Now I'm just going to replace the fuel hose that goes from this outlet right there over to the outlet on the fuel pump. And then I've also got the new hose that goes from the regulator down to the quick connect on the bottom of the fuel tank. We're just replacing it all. That way we never have to go into this tank again, hopefully. Well, it's not for many, many years. All right, so this is the new fuel hose. It's going to go in and replace the old one, and I even bought the new clamps to replace the ones that we had to cut to get it off. And of course I do have the special tool to clamp those clamps down. So we're going to get this hooked up, and then we'll install the quick connect in the tank, which already has the hose on it. I'll show you that in a moment, and we'll be ready to do the final reassembly. All right guys, the new line from the fuel pump to the fuel filter is now on and in place. I have not clamped the clamps down yet. I don't like to do that till I know that they're both in place and it's exactly where I want it. That way you can always rotate it still if you need to. But I think these are good, so we're gonna clamp them down. You can see there's little lines in here, and you want the clamp to be up in the middle of those lines, right about there. Make sure you're past the flare on the barb, and the clamp is in between those lines. Right about there will be a good spot to clamp it. All right guys, so we got the entire assembly here back together. The only part left is to do the quick connect with the line up to it, and that is over here in this bag. Hi guys, I want to mention too, when you're trying to get these ends over the barbs on these fittings, it's a very difficult task. I use just a touch of motor oil on there just to kind of lubricate it a little bit. But even still, it's very hard to press it over, and you don't want to use any tools, because if you mess it up, then you got to go get another one again. Just do it by hand, and it's hard because your hands want to slip on it, but eventually you'll get it on there and get it clamped. Now the other end of this actually threads into the bottom of the tank, so you want to put this into the fuel tank first, thread it all the way in and make sure it's sealed before you connect this end to the fuel pump assembly. Otherwise, when you try to tighten this up, it's going to twist the hose, and you don't want that. So make sure it's fully tightened before you hook it to the fuel pump assembly. right, go. So like I was saying, in the tank here, I'm going to pull the hose out like this, and then now as I tighten it up, I'm actually rotating the hose with my hand as well. This keeps it from catching or binding on anything until it gets fully seated, and then you can snug it up with a wrench. And then after we put the fuel pump assembly in, we'll attach this to the regulator output, and it'll be done. All right, guys, so that is tightened up all the way. Now we're going to reinstall the whole module into the fuel tank opening. I want to take note that there is a hinge on this. If you look at this section right here, if you spread this apart, you can actually hinge it, and it makes it a whole lot easier. It's hard to do with one hand. You can hinge it like this for installation, and then let it pop back down in. So now it's all straight up and down as you do the installation. All right, guys, so I'm attaching a pair of locking hemostats to that line that we just put in so that I can drape it this way and it holds it. The natural spring tension in this wants it to flip inside the tank, and I don't want to have to fish for it once the module is in place. So this should hopefully keep it out of the way while I'll install the module. I want to make sure our gasket is fully in place as well. It's definitely a little tricky to get it in there the right way. But once it's in, it'll unfold and pop into place. But I think I need my other hand to make it work. All right, there we are. The module is set down in place. All we have to do is hook the line up right there to the outlet, and we'll be done with all the connections. Okay, as you see, the hose is connected. All I have to do is reach in there and clamp the clamp down now, which is not going to be easy with everything in the way, but we'll get it done. So I was able to get in there and clamp that, but hindsight being 2020, the easier way to do that would be to take the fuel regulator off of the assembly. It actually is only held in there by like a spring clamp, where the fuel filter and the pressure regulator go together as just an O-ring, and the clamp holds everything together. So I could have just pulled that out, clamped it outside the tank, and then stuck it back in there and clamped it back down. But it wasn't hard the way I did it by any means. Just had to reach in there, squeeze it, and you're done. Now we're gonna bolt the top plate back on, and we can reinstall it on the motorcycle. All right, guys, I got the tank set back in place. It's not all hooked up yet, but it's setting there. And before I do the final hookup, also, I took off the fuel line. This is the one that clicks to the bottom of the tank and runs over to the throttle body. I decided to go ahead and get a new one of those as well, just because it's old, and I want to take the old one and make a special tool out of it. Now, I did notice that fuel line that I just put on was slightly different than the one that I took off. And when I did the parts lookup, it was a superseded number. And believe it or not, it's just slightly longer, and what's happening is it's actually rubbing the horn bracket. All right, so you can see here, it's actually rubbing right there. So I wasn't gonna put this cheesy stuff back on that was on the old one, but I think now I'm going to, just to protect it from that abrasion, and there's no way to route it differently. Maybe with heat and time, I can get it to shape a little different, but we'll see. Now also on the earlier model twin cams, 2007 and earlier, there was a crossover hose that goes on the front of the fuel tank. It runs down by the ignition coil, under the frame, and back to the other side of the fuel tank. And again, because it's almost a 20-year-old bike, I just went ahead and bought another piece of hose. Gonna replace it too while we had it off. All right, guys, so the tank is back on. Everything is buttoned up. I checked for fuel leaks at all the connection points on the exterior of the tank, and so far we're good. Now I think it's time to fire it up, see if it all works. Take a few minutes for the whole system to prime back up, but it already sounds better than it did. Well, guys, she sounds so much better. All the popping is gone. I'm going to take it on a road test just to make sure. But I'm pretty confident we fixed it. It's running way different now than it was just earlier this morning.
What did I do with it? What would I do with it? Stuck again. Rocky Mountains off me, and I went 207 seconds on the road, and I oh, sweet girl.
Well done, well done, well done. All right. Next up, Jane.
Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed.
Well, guys, today was actually a really slow day. We only serviced 2 motorcycles today. We had that Goldwing, had a brake issue in the flashers, and then we did a Supreme service on a Harley Davidson trike. And that was it, nothing to brag about. I think it's officially the slowest day we've had this year. Can't be positive on that, but it was pretty boring. Luckily, it gave me time to fix my own bikes. I'm really glad that that is fixed. We got a couple projects done on the trailer, like installing some new LED lights on the exterior. Hopefully, I'll be able to wire them in shortly, but they're installed at least.
You need to get a wheelie bar on there.
So I guess basically there was a couple really long rides today, some out to Mount Rushmore and out to Devil's Tower. So most of the attendees for the rally were actually out riding and they just weren't here, which kind of sucks for us. But I mean, that's what they came to do, is ride. So it's good that they were able to do so. So we're going to close things up here. You know, there's some people over there at the bars you can see, and they're doing karaoke, and some of them are good, some of them not so good. But we're gonna close everything up, and we're gonna get ready to head to dinner. Again, so at the beginning of the video, it's Katie's birthday, so she gets the choice of restaurant tonight. And I don't know where we're going just yet. Maybe, I think she said Tim Lizzie's, but I'm not positive. Well, guys, I think we had a really good time out at dinner. I think Katie really appreciated having everybody out, kind of celebrated her. Some really good times and some good friends. I'm also really glad that I was able to get my bike fixed today. It would have really sucked to be in one of my favorite places to ride and not have anything to ride. I was lucky enough to get all of the parts in order to fix it today, when at first I didn't think I was going to. And I'm also glad to know that it wasn't bad gas, so now I have no reason to not trust the Big D. And it, yeah, I heard it as soon as I said it, but no, that's actually the name of the gas station. Check it out, Big D. So get your mind out of the gutter. But anyway, the bike is running good, it's running strong, so I just topped it off with fuel. That way we are ready to go for tomorrow. But guys, as of right now, I think we're going to close this video. We are going to go home, take a shower, go to bed. I'm just tired. It's been a long day, a really slow day, but it was a long day. And I hate to say it, but sometimes they wear me out even more. So guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And until the next time I see you, keep those engines running.